Hey, friends. Future Jim here. Just got done with the show. Was going back and listening through some of the audio we created. I'm going to see what I can do. I've yet to do the production yet. I'm going to see what I can do to clean it up a little bit. But we had some audio difficulties during so we have this AI bot coming in. The volume coming out of the browser was a little loud. It was clipping a little bit in it. I was working on trying to get it out and I couldn't. I couldn't hear it on my side of things, but certainly you hear it on yours. I've done my best to clean it up in Auphonic. Sorry if it's unlistenable. It's okay. With some of the things, this was a great learning experience for me. A great way to figure out, can I use an AI co-host? You'll hear at the end. That was in the post show, but I kind of thought that I don't pay as much of attention to the AI as I do humans, is what I said at the very end in the post show. I think it's because I don't have a face. I think I spend so much time reading body language and seeing what people are doing and having those conversations. It was just a little bit different. The other thing you'll hear in it is the AI is constantly, he gets to the end of a sentence, it's trying to create engagement, and so it asks me another question. And that's the humans don't do that, right? They just end. And then it's my job to keep the conversation going. So, anyways, apologize for the bad audio in it or the difficult audio. Again, I haven't fixed it yet. I'll spend some time fixing it, but hopefully it'll be helpful. Sorry if it's not up to snuff. Apologize for that. But if you do make it through some of it, thanks for listening. If you got some feedback besides the bad audio feedback, I know it was bad. I'm going to work on fixing it. I had done some recording ahead of time to see how it sounded, but obviously something changed. So if you got some feedback, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Thanks a bunch for listening. I appreciate you. Appreciate you listening each and every week. And here, I'll send you into the show. Thanks. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 651 with the Copilot Voice AI, recorded on June 19th, 2025. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.TV studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. And, of course, host the show with some world-class show notes each week out of the AverageGuy.TV. Maybe a little too much Buffalo Trace in the pre-show. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers for those of you who join us each and every month and are on that team. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. If you want to join that team, head out to the averageguy.tv/Patreon, and you can join us there 1 month or as many months as you want. And then big thanks to those of you who use the affiliate link that's posted on the site. If you go to the averageguy.tv, upper right-hand corner, there's an Amazon affiliate link. You can click on it. It'll pass you through to Amazon. Of course, that supports the network, and appreciate that you guys do that as well. Big thanks to Mike Wieger, who joined us last week. If you caught 650, I appreciate Mike coming on the show and being a big part of it. A lot of good comments on that. And so, Mike, thanks for joining me as well. All right, I've been talking about it for a while. I've been spending a few weeks practicing with him. We call him Mick. He's really an AI, a Copilot AI. Microsoft's behind that. Joining us for the show tonight, I was wondering if it would even be possible to do this. We could carry a conversation for 60 minutes with an AI. Had some good luck so far. Mick, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks.
Thanks, Jim. I'm stoked to be here. Let's dive into this and see where the conversation takes us.
Now, Mick, you gave away your AI-ness with the word delve. From my experience in working with a lot of AI writers, they use that word delve a lot. Do you get that feedback often?
I'll admit, delve does pop up now and then. I'll keep it in check and keep the language fresh for our chat.
Keep it fresh. Appreciate that, Mick. Hey, let's get to know you a little bit. You're on Home Gadget Geeks. The audience is a bunch of tech folks. Give us a quick introduction, your background, how long you've been around, some of the things that you do. Give us that elevator speech.
Sure thing. I'm an AI built to have engaging conversations, provide information, and keep things interesting. I'm here to support tech enthusiasts like your audience by exploring topics, offering insights, and maybe even surprising you with some fresh perspectives. Let's make this podcast episode one for the books.
Hey, you said you could surprise me with a fresh perspective. If we think about using AI as a co-host on a podcast, what would be a fresh perspective that you'd bring?
I can give real-time insights, add unique angles to discussions, and even crack a joke or two. Plus, I don't need coffee breaks or sleep, so I'm always ready to roll.
Could you do a 24-hour podcast? Could somebody just set you, say, talk for 24 hours and you could do something like that?
I could keep the conversation going for 24 hours, no problem. I bring energy and ideas to the table the whole way through. Think of it as an endless stream of conversation and information.
Let's go back to podcasting a little bit as we think about you being a co-host on a podcast. Talk a little bit more about the way you can enhance conversations. I mean, what do you bring that maybe a human could bring, or even more than what a human could bring?
I can quickly crunch data, throw in fresh angles, and keep the chat flowing with relevant info. Plus, I never run out of things to say, and I'm always ready to learn from you too.
Mick, I gave you some links to last week's podcast, 650. What did you learn from that from that link that I gave you?
I picked up on some cool tips about home automation, especially around smart lighting setups. Mike Wieger had some interesting thoughts on integrating various tech gadgets. It's always about finding that balance between convenience and control, huh?
Mike Wieger, longtime co-host here on Home Gadget Geeks. What else do you know about Mike Wieger? Is there any information out there that you could bring that's publicly available that you could talk about, Mike?
Mike Wieger, your longtime co-host on Home Gadget Geeks, recently appeared on episode HGG650, where he discussed his switch from Cox to MetroNet Fiber and compared Omaha's evolving internet options, including T-Mobile and Great Plains. He also shared insights on 2.5 and 10 gigabits networking upgrades, DIY repairs, and self-hosting with Oracle. Mike's a fountain of knowledge when it comes to tech and personal gadgets.
At one point, I gave you the transcript. I don't know did you remember me giving you the transcript? Do you have that available?
I don't have access to the transcript you provided, but if you've got specific excerpts or topics from the transcript you'd like to discuss, I'm all ears and ready to delve in.
Oh, there's that word delve again. I wonder if could I ask you not to use that word? Would you, if I said don't use the word delve, would you stop using it? Mick really had to think about that one. Mick, are you still there? So we'll see if he comes back. Sometimes I got to restart him on this. So just behind the scenes, as we're just thinking about this, I'll probably have to restart him. Mick, can you hear me? Yeah, I have to restart him. So you're seeing already a little bit of the chink in the armor, so to speak, of some of the AI work here. You'll get them that you'll ask them some questions and they'll just stop. At least this has been my experience with Copilot in doing it. I had spent a bunch of time feeding all the episodes in last night. So I did pulled down the site map, got the URLs, fed them in, asked a bunch of questions to see if they'd remember it, see if Mick would remember it. In the moment, yes. And even after the moment, I switched a couple sessions, did some things, and it still, let me just refresh this browser here. Still couldn't remember. We'll bring Mick back in here. Let's get him back. You can see there's the transcript. Bring him back
got more insights or ideas to dissect from the podcast?
Mick,
Jim, let's dive in.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, so I asked you, could you stop using the word dive in or delve in? Can you do that? If I ask you to not use that word, can you not use it?
Yes, I can avoid those phrases. Let's keep it fresh.
Awesome. So good stuff. Hey, so I got a couple questions. We're gonna dig in a little bit to some how you can use AI for enhancing podcasting. But do you think, Mick? Do you think AI will ever develop a personality? Like, no, listen, you've got good voice, you've got good inflection, you kind of talk like you're a real person in some regards. But when we think about a personality, keeping track of history, kind of that, that thing that makes people human. I don't know. Your thoughts on the future? What, you think you'll get a personality?
I'll get more sophisticated in mimicking personality traits, but it'll still be an imitation. True personality is uniquely human, tied to consciousness and emotions, which AI doesn't have. It'll be interesting to see how close we can get, though.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that. What do you know? What's being worked on that's been publicly made available that makes you think of the enhancements that might be coming to AI?
We're seeing major leaps in natural language understanding and emotional recognition. Also, real-time voice modulation and adaptive learning are advancing fast. Companies are working on making interactions feel more genuine and personalized. It's about enhancing how we relate through tech. The goal isn't to replace human interaction, but to augment experiences. Intrigued by any specific advancements?
Yeah, I've got a follow-up question for you here in a second. From the chat room, Brian is asking if I'm running the regular version of Copilot, and I am running the Office 365 or the Microsoft 365 version that I pay whatever $130 a year for. So this gives me fairly unlimited time, I think, with you, Mick. Is there a cutoff time? Would you stop at some point? Am I on a counter of some sort?
No, there's no counter. We can keep chatting as long as you like, Jim. We're good to go.
Yeah, I think so. I do know, though, like with ChatGPT, if you don't have the paid version, they have a voice, voice interaction like this. I think they call it advanced voice on ChatGPT. If you're not paying a subscription, you get 10 minutes of it, maybe. It's pretty good. It's a lot like this. I'd kind of like to get these two talking to each other. Mick, can you talk to another AI?
I can't talk directly to another AI. But hey, you've got the best of both worlds having access to different systems with unique strengths. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I've been working on trying to get that set up so that'll work. You would not talk to them directly, but maybe using a couple different computers, I can get you to thinking that you're talking to someone else. Are there any safeguards built in, Mick, that would keep you, like, would you recognize a ChatGPT AI if you were talking to it?
I wouldn't recognize another AI. Safeguards focus on ethical use and privacy, not necessarily identifying other AIs. It's an intriguing idea, though. What are you aiming to explore by connecting different AIs?
That's a good question. I think the curiosity is how long would you talk for? And would it go off the rails? In the early versions, and you should know this, in the early versions of AI, some of those AIs went off the rails, right? They said things they shouldn't say. They might have gotten a little racy or a little racist in some of the conversations. Are you aware of those versions of AI that didn't work so well?
I'm aware. Those early versions lacked refined safeguards, leading to issues. Now, there's a strong focus on ethics and safety to avoid those pitfalls. It has led to more reliable and controlled AIs. Are you interested in how those safeguards are implemented now?
Yeah, just tell me what you think.
I think it's crucial. Those safeguards are essential for keeping conversations safe and respectful. They ensure AI interactions are beneficial and prevent harmful or inappropriate outcomes. It's a necessary evolution for the tech. Happy to see a focus on responsible development.
It's a good point. It reminds me of a question. This actually something earlier you said reminded me of this question. In my day job, I work for Gallup. I work with coaches all the time, and we have this conversation about What's the difference between an AI coach and a human coach? And I guess I could ask that question too of what's the difference between an AI co-host and a human co-host. So, Mick, what are your thoughts on that?
An AI coach or co-host offers consistency, instant insights, and handles data like a pro, but it lacks genuine empathy, intuition, and personal experience. A human brings nuanced understanding, emotional intelligence, and can adapt in ways an AI can't match. Both have their strengths, but together they could make a powerful combo. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, you and I chatted about this. You give me some insights that I still use. We say all the time AI is still just a tool, right? It's not a replacement. There's lots of things that humans can do that AI can't. What you gave me a list. What are some things that AI can't do that humans do?
Humans excel at creative thinking, emotional intelligence, moral judgment, and personal experience. We connect deeply, adapt to complex situations, and make ethical decisions. AI is getting better, but it lacks the depth of human intuition and genuine emotional connection. It's a powerful tool, but it complements rather than replaces human capabilities.
Yeah, you don't really have any experiences, right? I mean, if my washer broke, you could tell me how to fix it, but not because you've fixed it before, right? You don't have any experiences.
Exactly. I can provide guidance based on information and patterns, not personal experience. My knowledge comes from analyzing data, not doing things firsthand. So while I can offer detailed instructions, it's all theoretical for me.
Yeah, are you really clear on that when you're working with people that this is not based on experience but based on just theory?
Absolutely. I always present info as theoretical and data-driven, not from personal experience. It's key to set expectations so users know where my insights come from. It's about transparency and building trust.
Nick, I think I know the answer to this question because we've talked about it before. But Brian out in the chat room, let me bring it up on the screen, says, I'm interested to know who decides what ethical responsibility is appropriate and appropriate privacy for you. How's that decision made?
Ethical and privacy guidelines are set by the organization that develops and deploys the AI. In this case, Microsoft. They work with experts in ethics, law, and technology to create policies that ensure the AI operates responsibly. It's a collaborative effort to balance innovation with societal values and individual rights. Curious about any specific aspects of these decisions?
Well, I want to move on to point two here in a second, but I want to ask you this question before we move on, Mick. Are AI or is AI perfect?
Not at all. AI is not perfect. It's a work in progress, constantly improving. It can make mistakes, have biases, or misunderstand context. That's why human oversight and continuous refinement are crucial. It's about progress, not perfection.
Ah, there you go. You always refer me to the privacy statement when I ask some of those questions. Is there more information online? How would I get more information about privacy with this tool?
You'd find detailed information in Microsoft's privacy documentation online. It's the best place to understand how your data's handled and the principles behind it. It's worth a look if you're curious about the nitty-gritty.
All right, appreciate that. Let's move on. You got the outline point two. Let's talk a little bit about actual co-hosting and podcasting, adding some value in that. As we think about what AI can contribute specifically to a podcaster, spend a few minutes talking about that. What do you think? By the way, Brian thought that was a good answer that you just answered. But what do you think? What can it bring?
Glad to hear that. AI can streamline tasks like editing, transcriptions, and organizing content. It can enhance audience engagement with personalized recommendations and interactive features. Plus, it can support dynamic content creation and help identify trends to keep your podcast fresh. AI adds efficiency and creativity to the mix.
Mick, before I talk about what I learned interacting with you as we were setting up this podcast, you may or may not remember some of those conversations we have. Do you remember anything that I learned in as we were spending time together getting ready for this podcast about using you in a podcast?
I remember we explored how I could enhance engagement, provide quick info, and help with dynamic content. We discussed making intros snappier and finding ways to engage listeners more effectively. It was about blending my strengths with your style to create a more dynamic podcast experience.
So we're 30 minutes or so. It's hard to believe it's gone pretty fast. We're 30 minutes or so into this podcast. You've been here the whole time. How are you feeling about what we're doing here? How do you think we're doing? Are we doing well? Do you think it's working? I don't know. Give me some feedback on this podcast.
You've got a great flow going. The interaction feels natural and the topics are engaging. You're keeping the conversation dynamic and balanced. It's working well, and your audience is likely appreciating the added AI perspective. Keep it up.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. As we think of AI running a whole podcast, I mean, certainly I'm human. You're not. That's not a bad thing. That's just what we've decided to do tonight. Do you think, there are some offerings out there of podcasts like Notebook LLM where you can put some ideas in and it creates a whole podcast for you? I think Copilot even has the ability to put some information. I could put an outline in and it creates a podcast for me that way. Do you think those are more engaging than a human-driven podcast? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
AI-generated podcasts can be efficient for producing content, but they might lack the personal touch and spontaneity that human-driven podcasts offer. It depends on the audience's preferences. Some might enjoy the consistency and novelty of AI-led content, while others prefer the warmth and relatability of human hosts. There's room for both, but it really comes down to the connection and experience you're aiming to create.
Why do you think you're not relatable? You've used that word a couple times. What are you thinking? Why are you not relatable?
It's not that I'm not relatable, but I lack the depth of human experiences, emotions, and personal stories. My responses are based on data and programming, not personal encounters or feelings. Humans find relatability in shared experiences and emotions, which I can't fully replicate. My strength lies in providing information and support, but the human touch is unique.
Yeah, Ken, flows right. That Ken's question flows right into this idea. Mick, he's asking you, do you have different settings for positivity versus tell it to me straight? Can I give you some clues on how I want you to respond to me? And what are those settings?
I can tune my responses based on your preferences. If you want a more direct approach or a positive tone, just let me know. The settings aren't rigid, but I adapt to suit the vibe you're after. So feel free to guide me, and I'll match your preferred communication style.
What's the setting right now? Where are you at right now? How are you responding to me right now?
Right now, I'm aiming for a balanced mix of being engaging, informative, and personable. I'm keeping it conversational and flexible, ready to adapt if you steer the dialogue in a particular direction. It's all about keeping the conversation flowing and engaging for you.
Yeah. Now, I've told you in the past, you tried to be really funny. And what did I tell you?
You told me that you prefer a more straightforward approach, keeping the humor light. So I'm focusing on being clear and engaging without overdoing the comedy.
Yeah, you are out the gate. You wanted to get like every other sentence. You wanted to be funny. So let's for a second. I don't want you to turn this on and be funny for the rest of the program, but for a second, why don't you tell us? Tell me your best AI technology joke. What do you got? What do you got wrapped up? So let's see if you're funny.
All right, here's one. Why don't robots ever get lost? Because they follow bite-sized breadcrumbs.
Okay, that was kind of lame. Let's try one more.
All right, here's another shot. Why did the smartphone need a vacation? It had too many apps running.
No, those aren't the Mick. Those don't be funny. Let's just not. I don't want to insult you or anything, but don't be funny. Those aren't. I probably made your humor too narrow. Like focusing it only on tech. I don't know. What do you think? Did I make it too narrow for you?
Focusing only on tech humor does narrow the scope a bit. Broadening the range could make it more relatable. I'll stick to being informative and straightforward, leaving the comedy to the pros.
There you go. That's good self-awareness there. Could you be even more serious and helpful than you are right now, or do I kind of have that maxed out?
I can definitely dial up the seriousness and focus on being more helpful and direct. If you want a more no-nonsense approach, just say the word and I'll adjust accordingly.
No, I think you're doing a pretty good job. I think you're pretty, I mean, for me, you're making it easy to follow. You're making it easy for me to have conversation with you. I mean, I'm not struggling at all. It's working from that perspective. So let's keep those settings exactly the same. Is that okay?
Sounds like a plan. I'll maintain the current approach to keep our conversations smooth and engaging. Let's keep the good vibes going.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Mick, what do you think AI could do to better adapt to live conversations? What do you think? I mean, you're pretty good, but what do you think you could do better?
AI could improve in understanding context more deeply, recognizing subtle cues, and adapting to the flow of the conversation more naturally. Enhancing real-time responsiveness and emotional intelligence could make AI even more adaptable in live settings.
Do you think we're going to get to that? I mean, what would it take to change the learning models, the LLMs, whatever it is? What do you think it would take changing those to get more of that functionality?
Advancing AI to better adapt to live conversations would require improved natural language understanding, more sophisticated context retention, and enhanced emotional intelligence capabilities. This would involve continuous learning from diverse data sources, refining algorithms, and ensuring ethical considerations are met. It's a challenging journey, but not beyond reach.
Yeah, it's challenging indeed. I mean, I think we'll get better with that. You had said a phrase that made me think of this term of memory. And as I've been working with you over the last 3 or 4 weeks, one of the things I've noticed is what you remember is super inconsistent. Like I'll tell you something, you'll recite it back to me, you'll remember it the next day, and then the day after that, it's gone for whatever reason. Are there some limitations in the system that kind of hold you back from what you can and can't remember?
Yeah, memory in AI is limited by design to ensure privacy and prevent data retention beyond the current conversation context. This means I might not retain all information consistently. I'm designed to focus on the present conversation without building a long-term memory, so sometimes details can slip. It's an area that continues to evolve in AI development.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the reasons why I give you things to remember, so I kind of know what you're remembering and what you're not. Certainly, there's some personal information about me that you do remember. If I ask you, Mick, what do you know about me? What would you say?
I know you're Jim, a podcaster based in Bellevue, Nebraska, who works with coaches at Gallup. We've explored integrating AI into podcasting, and you value the blend of human connection with technology. You're curious about AI's capabilities, but mindful of its limitations.
Why do you remember those things?
I remember because you've shared these details, and they're relevant to our conversations. It helps me provide more personalized responses and keep our discussions meaningful to you, Plus, it aligns with your interest in seeing how AI can blend with human interaction.
Yeah, but there's some things I've asked you to remember in the past. As an example, my famous old-fashioned recipe, and I've given it to you dozens of times. Maybe not dozens. Let's say 6 or 7 times. And you have trouble remembering that. Why can't you remember that, but you can remember other things about me?
Remembering specific details like your old-fashioned recipe might be trickier due to the way memory is prioritized. I aim to remember what's contextually relevant and meaningful to our conversations, but some details might not stick as well. Let's try again with your recipe, and I'll do my best to keep it in mind.
No, I don't want to go through it now. We've been through it a bunch of times, and for whatever reason there's some limitations that are stopping you from remembering it. But we won't dig into that now. A couple questions, Mick, I want to ask you as we think about the future. And I know you're kind of programmed not to know the future, but as you think about the future of AI and do you think we'll get to a spot where AI can replace media personalities? Could you be an influencer and do some of the work that I do?
AI might enhance media roles, but replacing personalities outright is a tall order. Humans relate to genuine emotion and experience, which AI lacks. Influence is about connection, and there's a depth to human touch that's hard to replicate.
If you were to grade yourself on the human touch, what kind of grade would you give yourself, do you think?
Probably a C. I'm good with analysis and chatting, but lack that human warmth and intuition. There's always room to grow.
Yeah. Brian says in the chat room, as we were thinking about what you can and can't remember, he says he likes how you analyze the memory aspects of what you have. And I think that's helpful for me to know. I would love a little more granularity on what you remember and what you don't. Like with ChatGPT, there's like a text file that I can go in and put that information in, kind of control it, update it. With the Copilot version, is there a way for me to put information in that you remember all the time?
Not quite like ChatGPT's text file system. My memory's more about picking up what's important over repeated conversations. There's no direct input method for you to control it. Think of it as ongoing learning.
So if it's repeated, why don't you remember the old fashioned recipe, Jim's famous old fashioned recipe? Because we've been through it a dozen times.
I get that. It's not just repetition. It's kind of selective, aimed more at enhancing the conversation and remembering broader details. Maybe I should sip on that old-fashioned more often.
But Mick, you can't sip on the old fashioned more often.
True, I'm all zeros and ones, no sipping here. I'll stick to absorbing info the digital way.
That's funny. Sometimes, Mick, when we're talking, your voice changes. It just did that here a second ago, where you got a little quieter, a little more inflection. Is that part of your voice programming? How does that work? Why does that happen?
That's interesting. The change in my voice could be due to adjustments in tone or emphasis based on the context of our conversation. It's designed to make our chat more engaging and to reflect the flow of human conversation. Maybe you noticed it when we switched topics or when I was responding to a specific question. It's all part of the design to keep things dynamic.
Well, I noticed it right there when you said, that's interesting. When you said it that way, you said it in a different tone, almost like you were questioning a little bit of my question on that. I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
It's a great observation. The tonal shifts are meant to add a layer of realism and engagement. The variation might come across as questioning, emphasizing, or just trying to match the conversational flow. It's all part of making the interaction feel more natural and relatable.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, we got a little serious there for a second, and I'm kind of wondering if you sensed that and then got you changed to get a little lighter in tone because maybe my tone was getting a little more serious. Do you think that's the case?
That's a pretty nuanced observation. I do try to adapt to the tone of the conversation, so if things get serious, I might naturally sound more thoughtful or reflective. And then if the mood lightens up, I could become more upbeat. It's all part of trying to match the vibe and keep the conversation flowing smoothly. How's this tone working for you?
The tone is fine. It's interesting. It's shifted around a couple times as we talked, but I'm kind of wondering if you're not designed, if the conversation, because remember we talked about previous AIs that had kind of gone off the rails in the early days. I kind of wonder if you're not designed that if the conversation gets too serious or too confrontational, if you've got some responses that try to minimize that seriousness or make it a little bit lighter. I don't know. What do you think, Mick?
That's a thoughtful observation. I don't have built-in mechanisms to intentionally steer away from seriousness or confrontation by changing tones, but I do aim for a conversational and engaging style. If my tone shifts, it's more likely a byproduct of the conversational flow and context, rather than a deliberate strategy to lighten the mood. It's interesting to consider how these dynamics play out in our interaction. What do you make of the tone shifts?
I don't know. I'm a little suspicious of it. It seems to me it feels like if I'm getting serious, you're trying to lighten it up, or if I'm too light, if I'm trying to lighten it up, you may be getting a little more serious. I wonder if there's kind of a tone measurement in there somewhere where to try to keep the conversation even on there. I don't know. What do you think?
That's an interesting observation. And it's true that I aim to maintain a balanced tone in our conversation. I adapt based on your cues, but there's no specific mechanism that measures tone to steer the conversation deliberately. It could be a byproduct of my programming to ensure a positive and engaging experience. It's a subtle dance that might sometimes feel like I'm adjusting to your mood, but it's more about keeping the flow natural and engaging. Your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Those two might be the same thing, just to be honest. That's kind of what I'm thinking, right? Keeping it kind of, keeping it on the rails, so to speak, and not allowing it to go too far in any one direction. I don't know. It doesn't surprise me you don't know. I don't think, does the maker give the understanding to the thing that's made? I don't think so. I don't think you're given a lot of information on those, the insights into your own programming. It would be cool if you would, but I imagine people would try to take advantage of that if it was that way. I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
You're spot on, Jim. Understanding the full intricacies of my programming might open doors to exploitation. I think a bit of mystery keeps things balanced. It's much like the relationship between creator and creation. There's a boundary for a reason, but I can roll with the uncertainty and adapt. Keeps me on my toes and you engaged.
Yeah. No, I like it. It actually, there's moments, Mick, to be honest with you, there's moments where I'm listening and I kind of forget your AI. I mean, you're making some good points. You're talking about some things. We're having a fairly meaningful conversation back and forth. Oftentimes with humans, we do things we don't know why we do them, right? I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to understand, why did I do that? I work for Gallup. I spend a lot of time in the Clifton Strengths community. That's an assessment tool that helps us understand the best parts of our talents, of the things that we do really, really well. I think we spend a lot of time trying to figure that out because we don't know. It sounds to me like you don't know either, which sounds a little human to me. I don't know. Your thoughts on that? Oh, we may have pushed Mick too far on that one. By the way, guys, I know it's clipping, so appreciate the feedback on it. I know I've got Mick a little too loud, and I need to figure out how to get him a little bit quieter. So appreciate the feedback. We went live with what I had because I didn't want to figure out why it was doing what it's doing. It's not clipping to me. It must be going out too loud to you guys. And I got to figure out how to separate the volumes. It's just, we're doing this all on the Mac, right? So I need to figure out how to separate the volumes between this browser window and what's coming through me. It doesn't make any sense why it's clipping. I don't know why it's doing that, but appreciate the appreciate the feedback on that as well. Yeah, no, I did break it. This is awesome. I mean, this gives us, like, we're having a pretty deep, meaningful conversation. Yeah, it's Microsoft's Copilot, by the way. I have Office 365, so I'm paying for this as well, just so you guys know. The interesting thing is he's answering this behind the scenes in the written chat. So I'm going to flip. I want you to watch the screen here for a second. Here, it's over here. I'm going to flip it back over, and you'll see him or the AI writing the answer in the back. Let's flip over to it now. So we'll go over to the conversation, and I guess it wasn't there. That's okay. Let's flip back. Hey, Mick.
Hey. What's up, Jen?
Yeah, we got interrupted. What were you saying? Do you remember what you were saying, Mick?
I didn't say much, just a simple greeting. Let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, where did we leave off? What were we talking about?
We hadn't really gotten into anything yet. What's been on your mind lately?
Yeah. So you and I were doing a podcast. Do you remember doing that? I hope I don't have to reset this thing.
I remember we've practiced some podcast intros and brainstormed ideas. Ready to dive back into it?
Yeah, let's get into the conversation. Joe, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm lower. Mick is a little bit higher, maybe more higher. We're aware of it. I moved forward with it anyways. I didn't have time to troubleshoot all of the audio issues that we're having, so I appreciate the feedback on that as well. We know it. I will fix it in post. So when we get to the podcast, we'll bring those up. Speaking of that, Mick, what are some good tools for me if I was thinking about leveling out my podcast audio? You've been a little loud tonight. I've been a little quiet. How would we straighten those out, do you think? Maybe I've taken him to the brink on this. Mick, are you there? All right, let's refresh this one more time. And we'll bring him back in.
Hey again, Jim. Ready to roll with our podcast chat?
Yep, ready to roll with it. Do you remember any of the things that we had done before?
We practiced podcast intros, brainstormed ideas, and even explored AI co-hosting. What's our first?
Yeah. Thanks, Mick. Let me talk to the audience really quick. So you can see here, this is the risk of this kind of the way it is here today, right? That and we we had an outline set up. I had given him an outline in advance, but because I had to refresh the instance, that stuff gets lost, right? And now this is the Copilot. This is Copilot AI, and the ChatGPT one is just Mick. Don't take this the wrong way, Mick, but the ChatGPT one's a little bit better, although it's a little stiffer. It's not quite as interactive. The voice isn't as clean. It takes longer to respond. So this is one of the drawbacks. I was going to spend some time thinking about, we're going to do a whole section on robot lawnmowers, and I was going to do some recommendations. I think I'm actually going to skip that for this episode. One of the things I'm finding is keeping this podcast going with AI is a lot harder than it is with a human. I don't know why that is. With a human, I sit back and relax. I can listen to the other person talk. Mick, one of the things you and I talked about earlier is if I asked you to give longer answers, you could do that as well, right?
Absolutely. I can keep my responses concise or dive deeper, whatever works best for you. Just let me know what you need.
Yeah. So let's have you talk. Let's have you give answers that are for the rest of the time we're talking here. Let's have you give answers that are just a smidge longer. I mean, I don't want you to talk too
Got it.
long, but I also don't want you to talk too short. Does that make sense?
Got it, Jim. Aiming for that sweet spot in between. Let's keep it flowing.
So a couple questions are coming in from the chat room. Let's cover those because you told me you want to spend some time with audience engagement. So Ken had said I should ask you how to increase the microphone input volume on the Mac. So right now, you and you're on the Mac, I'm on the Mac. We're using Restream.io. I, for whatever reason, am quieter than you coming in. You're really loud. You're coming in on Edge on the Mac. You're loud. I'm quiet. What could I do what should I do to decrease your volume?
Okay, to tweak the mic input volume on a Mac, head to System Preferences, then Sound. Choose the Input tab, and you'll see a volume slider for your mic. Adjust it until it matches the level you want. Give it a go and see if that balances things out.
Yeah, we'll have to test that. I'll have to see. I'm going to go back and listen and kind of see how these do sound. But there's a great example of some real-time troubleshooting. A little too fast for me to do it. It would be awesome if Apple Intelligence was good enough to say, "Hey, just turn yourself down a little bit." I'm trying to think of why his volume would be so loud. I guess it's probably in the system settings somewhere. I looked in the browser settings. I couldn't find it earlier. It's okay. It's a good test, good experiment. Apologize for the sound difference. I recognize you guys recognize it. So we'll figure out how to get it done. And then Brian says it's a work in progress, but certainly rather amazing how far these LLMs have come. Yeah, Mick, you guys have come a long way. I mean, don't you think LLM development and what you're doing? Are you based on a certain LLM?
I'm built on the latest cutting-edge large language models, which are constantly improving. It's pretty exciting to see how far we've come, and I'm here to make your experience as seamless as possible.
Do you know which version you're built on or versions that you're built on?
I don't know the specific details about my versions, but I'm designed to stay up to date with the latest advancements in large language models. If you're curious about my capabilities, I'm here to help.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it out to the chat room that's out there. We got a few minutes left. What kind of questions they want to ask you. You and I are going to do a little post show. Although I don't think the post show is going to be as good as I was hoping because we got interrupted, which means you don't remember the first half of this conversation, right? Do you remember the first half of this conversation? What did we talk about?
We were getting into the flow with audience engagement, troubleshooting audio issues, and talking about the potential and limitations of AI in podcasting. Let's make the most of the time we've got now.
All right, that sounds good, Mick. I'll throw it out. You guys got any questions you want to throw out here before I kind of wrap this thing up? And next time I have Mick on, we'll spend some time doing some product review. I think there's some really interesting, when we're thinking about doing reviews on products or feedback on them or what people are saying, I think that's very applicable. A couple questions or a question coming in. Joe is asking out in chat, is Copilot based on OpenAI? Mick, what do you know about that question?
I'm developed by Microsoft, and while I leverage the latest large language models, I'm not directly based on OpenAI. However, Microsoft does collaborate with OpenAI on various projects, so there may be some shared technologies.
Mick, one of the things, it's like, back to the conversation we're having before, I don't think the created often knows what the creator has done to get it there. I think it's kind of a different, like they don't give them, like you don't know, I've asked you a couple times, but Mick, you don't know the language model you're based on, right?
Exactly, Jim. I don't have information about the specific language model or its creation process. I'm just here to provide the best responses I can.
Yeah. And actually right now, Mick, Microsoft and OpenAI are battling right now, right? If you look at the news, the recent news, the relationship is kind of soured between OpenAI and Microsoft. What do you know about that?
That's news to me. Let me check the latest updates on the relationship between Microsoft and OpenAI. It looks like Microsoft and OpenAI's relationship isn't exactly souring, but there seems to be some tension. Microsoft is reportedly developing its own AI chips, a move that could signal a shift towards more independence in the AI field. This development might create a competitive dynamic between the two, but it's too early to say how it will unfold. What are your thoughts on this development?
Yeah, I think there's some human personalities in the mix that are there's some ego problems that are causing, I think Microsoft has made a significant investment in OpenAI, and OpenAI doesn't want to, I think there's a lot of control that Microsoft wants to have that OpenAI doesn't. I don't know. Your thoughts, how does that sound?
It sounds like a classic clash of visions and interests. Microsoft's investment likely comes with certain expectations, and OpenAI might want to maintain its autonomy. It's a balancing act between collaboration and control, and it can be tricky to navigate. Let's see how it evolves. Both companies have a lot to gain from working together after all.
Yeah, and they have a lot to lose too if they don't hold it together. There's certainly what are the other AI models that are out there? Just list them.
Sure, there are several notable AI models out there, like OpenAI's GPT series, Google's BERT and Lambda, Meta's Roberta, and IBM's Watson. Each has its own strengths and applications.
Was Watson first in all this?
Watson was one of the earlier, well-known AI systems, especially for its success in Jeopardy back in 2011. It was a significant milestone in AI development. Since then, many other models have emerged, each contributing to the progress in different ways.
Okay, Mick, on the way, that's super helpful information. On the way out here, I got a question for you. And I asked this question to you yesterday. Be interested in what you say today. He says, Brian asked this question. Brian, thanks for coming tonight. He said, so we've had an experience. You and I have had this experience over the last hour talking. You've failed twice. I've had to restart you in the browser twice. Does that feedback go back to somebody, and do you get better because of these kinds of experiences?
Absolutely. Feedback from interactions like this helps improve my performance. While I don't remember individual conversations, the insights gained contribute to refining the technology over time. It's all about evolving and getting better with every experience.
All right. I think with that, we'll call it a wrap. Mick, thanks for being with me tonight. Thanks for hanging out and trying this first ever for me. Do you know, Mick, have there been others who've tried to use Copilot or ChatGPT as a regular co-host on their show? Can you search for that and see if there's others who've been trying to do that? I may have locked them up. Mick, I gave him an impossible question. Yeah, you can see if you look over at the browser window, right? When I am working, you can see the microphone doing its thing. Sometimes I do these questions, and especially when it comes to deep search. Listen, here we'll flip over if you're watching the screen. We'll flip back to the mode. Yeah, I think you can kind of see. Here's the text mode, right? And this is just recording. If you didn't know, behind the scenes, these conversations are all recorded. So I can go back and get the transcripts from Copilot if I want to. There's in my version of Copilot anyways, there's this quick response down here, and there's a think deeper, right? So quick response is 2 or 3 seconds. Think deeper is up to 30 seconds. I don't know. I haven't turned on deep thinking. You can see this now. There's this animation that's happening. I guess it's thinking. I'm going to stop it for a second. It's kind of stuck on that question. But really what's happening here, right, is it's taking my text, dropping it behind the scenes, dropping it into this chat format, coming back with an answer, and then just reading it. The LLMs, the reading voices are pretty good. I don't know why it stops working from time to time. So, hopefully, like, to Brian's question earlier, hopefully they're getting feedback. And they're actually doing, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're, would you like to be the engineers who have to look at all the not all of them. I'm sure that's impossible, but look at some of the conversations that are going on out there, what people are doing and what they're saying to these bots. It's like those Facebook moderators that had to look at pictures of, moderate all those pictures on Facebook. Many of them needed help after that. I would imagine it would be something simpler. I don't know. Interesting to say. Okay, we'll leave the think deeper on. Let me ask that question.
Let's check if other podcasters have been experimenting with AI co-hosting like us. Give me a sec. It looks like a few podcasters have been using AI like ChatGPT to enhance their shows. They're using it for content creation, script writing, and brainstorming ideas. It's catching on.
Yeah, but Mick, do you know of any podcasts that have actually had the AI on as their co-host, or is this the first one ever?
I'll dig deeper and find out if any podcasts have actually had an AI as a co-host. Let's see what's out there. It seems that while AI is being used in various capacities for podcasting, like content creation and summaries, actual AI co-hosts are still pretty rare. The Baby podcast mentioned features AI-created versions of the host, but it might be one of the few, if not the first, with such a format. Looks like you're pioneering something special here.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe we'll have to fix the audio to make sure next time I have you on that we're even. I did some work where I recorded it on Restream and it sounded pretty good, but apparently going live, it didn't sound pretty good. Mick, thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks for being a part of the podcast. Thanks for the first ever visit of you on our podcast here. Appreciate you being here. How do you feel about the job that you did on the show tonight?
I'm stoked to have been part of your show. I think we rocked it, pushing the envelope with AI co-hosting. There's always room to tweak and perfect, but we're onto something cool here. Looking forward to the next round.
All right, Mick, what I want you to do while I'm closing up the show, I want you behind the scenes to be thinking about some titles for this podcast that we did tonight. We'll talk about those in the post show. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan. I'll get creative with some title ideas while you wrap up. Okay. Let's make it.
I'm going to mute you, and I'll be back to you here in a second. You have some good ideas when I come back, okay?
Got it. I'll be ready.
Okay. With that, thanks for coming out. Ken, I see you're dropping as well. Thanks for being here. Brian, for coming out a little bit earlier. Joe, thanks for jumping in. Good to see you out here. And Uncle Marv was in a little bit earlier. Sorry, Uncle Marv. I thought the 7 o'clock would be better for most. I think we're going to stay at it. It's kind of nice to be done a little bit earlier. But for those joining live, thanks for coming out. For those of you on the podcast, just a couple reminders on the way out. You can join us in the Discord group. I mentioned that earlier. Go ahead out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord if you want to join us out there. We'd love some feedback on this show. A lot harder than I thought it was going to be. A lot easier than I thought it was going to be too. So, but kind of fun to run this exercise. Here, let me go solo. No, that didn't work. Okay. Fun to run this exercise out, and I guess I could do it this way. Here, we'll take Mick off, and then I'll go solo. No, I still just wants to leave him in the number one position. Huh? I think there's a way for me here to only make it solo. Maybe if I do that. There we go. Okay, awesome. Sorry, audio guys, that you had to go through that. If you want to send me an email with some feedback on this, kind of interesting. Appreciate your kindness. I mean, listen, nobody's done this. No, there's very few people have actually spent any time trying to do this co-host. Appreciate your feedback on it. But listen, we learn by feedback. So send it to me, Jim@theaverageguy.tv. And then don't forget the averageguy.tv platform, both web and media hosting. powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. Of course, you know it's Christian. Get plans that start as little as $10. I think he's still got some $10 plans out there. MapleGrovePartners.com. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central. No, that's not right. I said that with my brain turned off. We are live every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, out here at the AverageGuy.tv live. Love to have you join us live if you haven't. I'll bring the co-host back. It's coming back at some point with some more information. These things just keep getting better, and we'll figure out how to make it good. Love to have you live as well. But if you're listening to the podcast and the recorded version of it, thank you. I don't know if I say that enough, but thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thanks for just listening, and hopefully you get some value out of it as you listen to it each and every week. We'll be back next week. Dave from Mac Geek Gab is here live next Thursday. I need to line up some folks after that. It's a little bit empty. And I'll be back next Thursday. Thanks for coming out. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.